Peace and love. Here we go.
Who shot you? Separate the weak from the opposite.
Trust nobody.
If you was to get shot 5 times, the mind is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation.
I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him.
And we will bring a new government here that will feed every person in New York.
He felt he was gonna die soon.
Yeah.
As you already understood, in this video, we will look at the deadly beef between Tupac and Biggie, friends who became victims of circumstances, which eventually led them to becoming enemies. This beef was named East Coast vs. West Coast. Vibe magazine constantly talked about it, which pissed off many rappers.
When I saw that cover, I said, man, what the is going on?
We have gathered a lot of information for you so that you can fully understand what was happening between the two legendary rappers. When making this video, we researched a lot of information on the internet and watched various documentaries on sites that might have had viruses. However, NordVPN came to the rescue, making sure that we were protected. NordVPN blocks malware, stops intrusive tracking, avoids malicious ads, and when threat protection is enabled in the settings, it can protect your browsing, even when you're not connected to a VPN server. Also, NordVPN will help you bypass blocked sites in your country, help to get the best prices on flights and travel tickets, and many other features that you cannot do. NordVPN is on a mission to make the internet a better place than it is today. It takes its inspiration from the Nordic ideals of confidence, trust, and innovation. They value their customers' freedom of choice and strive to be innovative with their technology. One of the best features of NordVPN is that it is great for unlocking movies and series on streaming sites such as Netflix, so that you can access content that may not ordinarily be available in your country. Go to nordvpn.com/musicvibe to get the 2-year plan with an exclusive deal, plus 4 bonus months free. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Tupac and Biggie first encountered each other in 1993. The latter had a pair of extracurricular goals on his business trio to LA, to find weed and meet Tupac. A local dealer got a hold of Tupac, who invited Biggie and his party to his house, which shared with them a big freezer bag of the greenest vegetables I'd never seen. According to Uptown Record intern Dan Smalls, who was part of the group, Tupac got them high and pulled out a green army bag filled with handguns and machine guns. So now, here we are in this backyard running around with guns just playing, continued Dan Smalls in the fader. Luckily, they were all unloaded. While we were running around, Pac walks into the kitchen and starts cooking for us. He's in the kitchen cooking some steaks. We were drinking and smoking, and all of a sudden, Pac was like, "Yo, come get it." And we go into the kitchen, and he had steaks and fries and bread and Kool-Aid. And we just sitting there eating and drinking and laughing. And you know, that's truly where Big and Pac's friendship started. Big slept on Tupac's couch whenever he came back to California. And when Tupac was in New York, he came by Biggie's neighborhood, picking him up in a white limousine and throwing dice with the locals. As Lil' Kim says, one day, Pac came with a garbage bag full of weed. All the boys from Junior Mafia were hanging out in the neighborhood. They started talking, chill, and didn't stop until they smoked everything. And Tupac came up to Lil' Kim and asked, "Who is this?" And Biggie said, "Chill out, that's my girl." And he went, "Fat bastard, what the fuck are you doing to her?" Then they laughed. Tupac was already a famous rapper, while Christopher Wallace was a star only in Brooklyn. According to hip-hop artist Edie Mean, Tupac regularly took his time to teach new rappers how to succeed in the industry, but he especially focused on Biggie, who wanted him to become a part of his group, Thug Life. Pac took it upon himself to influence the young Wallace, having in mind that he would focus on writing tracks for a female audience. If you want to make your money, you have to rap for the bitches. Do not rap for the guys. The bitches will buy your records, and the guys want what the bitches want, Pac said.
It's all a nigga knows, flipping on foes, putting tags on toes, watching the stash grow, clocking the cash flow.
But before Ready to Die came out, Biggie worried he could miss his shot, considering that the new label he was signed to, Bad Boy, owned by his manager Sean Puffy Combs, hadn't taken off yet. Things weren't happening for him quickly enough, he complained. He asked Tupac to take over as his manager in hopes Tupac could advance his music and film career as rapidly as he'd done his own. Tupac declined the offer and told him to stay in Bad Boy, where Puff Daddy would make him a star. Tupac Shakur met Jaquise Agnew, nicknamed Haitian Jack, in a Manhattan nightclub. Tupac was attracted by his luxurious lifestyle. I used to dress in baggies and sneakers. They took me shopping. That's when I bought my Rolex and all my jewels, Tupac said. They made me mature. They introduced me to all these gangsters in Brooklyn. One day, Tupac said to me, "I'm glad I met you when I did, because it really helped with the character that I was working on," Jack recalls on Hip Hop Uncovered. Then I said, "You got something for me?" He was like, "Yeah, man, just your swagger, the way you handle yourself, how everybody's always around you." That was important for me to see that happens, that people gravitate to a gangster. However, Biggie warned him that he was a shady guy. On November 18, 1993, during a party, Tupac met 19-year-old Ayanna Jackson, with whom he spent the rest of the night. A few nights later, Haitian Jack informed Pac that Jackson was coming back over. Tupac said Jack was making everyone drinks in what appeared to be an evening that was nothing out of the ordinary. Biggie Smalls was reportedly there, waiting to accompany Shakur to a New Jersey show, but he left shortly after Jackson's arrival.
And had sex with Tupac that night while I was on top of him. Then he got up and he left.
According to Jackson, she and Tupac were in his bedroom alone when other men entered and they proceeded to rape her. Tupac said that when the other men walked into the room, he left, feeling weirded out by the group setting. He said he talked with his publicist in another room, felt groggy, and went to sleep. He awoke to Jackson yelling at him for allowing them to assault her. Before the cases against Pac and the other two men were brought to court, Haitian Jack pleaded guilty and received a lenient sentence.
The only way I've been practicing my whole life to live my life is to be responsible for what I do. I don't know how to be responsible for what every black male did.
Print the facts so everybody can sort it out. My life is ruined because nobody has a chance to get the facts.
One day, Tupac was in New York. He was going to Quad Recording Studios. At the time, Tupac got contacted by Jimmy Henchman, a known associate of Haitian Jack, to appear on a Little Sean song, an artist he represented. That same night, Big was in the studio with Junior Mafia when they were working on a song Players Anthem. This was the group's first studio session. Lil C's was smoking on the balcony and saw Tupac walking in with the red bandana. They exchanged words, and Lil C's returned to the studio, where he told Big that he had seen Tupac, and Biggie said, "Bring him to us." He went to meet him, and when he came down, he saw Tupac and his men lying on the floor. Two robbers pointed guns at them and told them to get back into the elevator. They went upstairs and told Big that they were being robbed. He didn't believe it at first, and then Tupac was lying on the floor, covered in blood. Pac was shot many times, at least twice in the head. He was robbed of $40,000. Tupac was in a critical but stable condition. First, he went up to Biggie and Puffy. Tupac said the crew looked surprised and guilty, but Puffy claimed they showed him nothing but love and concern. Tupac was told that he needed to go to the hospital, and he was hospitalized. All this happened one day before Pac was sentenced for rape, which ended in a loss for him, and he went to prison. Pac had a feeling that it was a setup.
Trust nobody. Trust nobody. After dog. You know what I mean? Straight up. My closest friends did me in. My closest friends, my homies, people who I done took care of their whole family. I done took care of everything for them, looked out for them, put them in the game, everything turned on me. Fear is stronger than love. Remember that.
And couldn't believe that New York and his friends had set him up. He blamed Biggie, Puff Daddy, Haitian Jack, and of course Jimmy Henchman for this. Later, an anonymous message was passed to the NYPD for Pac. It said, "No one came to rob you. They came to discipline you." When Pac was hanging out with Haitian Jack, he met Madonna, and they had a short-term affair, which also ended in a bad way. In a prison letter, he wrote the following: "For you to be seen with the black man wouldn't in any way jeopardize your career. If anything, it would make you seem that much more open and exciting." The rapper wrote in the note, dated January 15th, 1995 at 4:30 a.m. But for me, at least in my previous perception, I felt due to my image, I would be letting down half of the people who made me what I thought I was. I never meant to hurt you. In the note, Tupac admits that Madonna shattered his ego when she remarked in an interview, "I'm off to rehabilitate all the rappers and basketball players," or something to that effect. But the MC also apologizes to the singer, confessing, "Like you said, I haven't been the kind of friend I know I am capable of being." Despite its overall reconciliatory mood, the letter includes several ominous stretches. "If there is any information you can share with me regarding Jack and crew, please do," Tupac writes. It could very well be a matter of life and death. He also warns Madonna to please be careful.
Live tale about a snitch named Haitian Jack. Knew he was working for the Fed.
A self-proclaimed participant in the robbery named Dexter Isaac told what had happened that night and who was behind it. In addition to the 4 names that Tupac named, there's also Big Stretch, who was a close friend of Pac and with whom they made songs together. After Tupac was shot, Big Stretch passed a message from Jimmy to Pac, which said the following: "You don't want to go to war with him. You don't have your money right."
You know, when you come from the hood, you like, how come my homies relying a message from my enemy? You know what I mean? So I remember looking at Pac like, something ain't up. Something ain't right about this.
I just remember what you told me. You said don't go to war unless I got my money right. I got my money right.
Anyway, Isaac, who is currently serving life in prison at Rikers Island, alleges Tupac's close friend, Live Squad member Stretch, was behind the attack. Stretch set the whole thing up, Isaac said in an interview. In 1994, James Rosman hired me to rob Tupac Shakur at the Quad Studio. He gave me $2,500 plus all the jewelry I took, except for one ring, which he wanted for himself. It was the biggest of the 2 diamond rings that we took. He said he wanted to put the stone in a new setting for his girlfriend at the time, Cynthia Reed. I still have his proof the chain that we took that night in the robbery. I want to apologize to his family and for the mistake I did for that sucker. Jimmy himself obviously said it was bullshit. However, when one charge turned into another and another, which led to the fact that he would spend the rest of his life in prison, he confessed that he was the mastermind behind Tupac's robbery. 3 months after this incident, Biggie releases the song "Who Shot Ya?", which was recorded before Pac was shot. The producer of the song understood that this was not the best time to release this project.
Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the ops. Leap hard to creep them Brooklyn streets. It's on.
Your label dropped a song, "Who Shot Ya?" Who the fuck is supposed to be about, bruh? Keep it a buck.
In August 1995, the Source Awards took place, which changed the relationship between the East and West Coast. Ice Cube said in an interview that everything was on the verge of disaster. Many people had guns that night, and one extra move could change the course of the ceremony. And then there's Suge Knight, who comes out and says,
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
It was a straight diss towards Puff Daddy, who, if we're being honest, really liked to show off in many clips of his artists. On top of that, Suge made it clear that they were on Tupac's side.
Like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up, we ride with him.
The venue erupted in boos. Why would you do that? Death Row rapper Nate Dogg thought to himself. What inspired Suge's bizarre attack? After all, he and Puffy had been cool with each other until fairly recently. They discussed how to keep the feds from tracking them. And earlier in 1995, Suge had even invited Biggie Smalls to perform at his club 662 in Las Vegas. The show never went off, but this didn't sour their relationship. What soured it was Tupac. On top of that, Snoop Dogg added fuel to the fire, which will come back to bite him in the future. But more on that a little later.
The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row.
As Snoop Dogg says, Tupac was his friend and he told Suge to let him out of prison. Suge had flown straight to the Source Awards from visiting Tupac in prison. That's where Tupac not only agreed to join Death Row, but where he told Suge about his anger at Biggie. I need you to ride with me because I'm going to destroy Bad Boy Records. I believe they had something to do with me getting shot, Tupac told Suge. Suge pledged his loyalty. Tupac's enemies would be his enemies. Suge Knight and Jimmy Iovine pledged $1.4 million to free Tupac, who in turn released his Ambitions as a rider. That was his first release after coming back from prison. Pac didn't go out and party. He got to work because he had something to say. This is a reference to Big Stretch, who, by the way, was killed when Pac was in prison. Many people are of the opinion that this was revenge for Tupac, but Pac himself was not involved in the murder, especially since he did not want him dead.
Coward, you can never be live until you die. See the motherfucking bitch in your eye. Type of nigga let the evil of the money.
But Tupac's main goal after getting out of prison was Bad Boy Records, and Biggie was the main target.
After I met Biggie, Ready to Die come out, his whole style changed. Study why I would be mad. Study why I would be mad when half of New York, half of the major New York rappers, or they managers, or they agents, or they somebody was there when I got shot. And nobody couldn't give me no information. Just study that.
It's just ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But I also understand that if you was to get shot 5 times, mine is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation.
On September 23rd, 1995, Suge Knight's close friend and bodyguard, Jai Hassan Jamal Robles, was killed after a fight that happened at a club between Death Row and Bad Boy Records.
He was a good friend of him. He was a very good friend. You see them together often, and I think Suge trusted him a lot.
The published reports say that some witnesses claim that someone from Puffy's entourage was responsible for this. Less than 2 weeks later, when it came down for the How Can I Be Down rap conference in Miami, the heat was on. Suge, who has never concealed his past affiliations with LA's Notorious Bloods, was rumored to be coming with an army. Pac was said to be bringing a massive of New York drug lords and thugs. When the conference came and Puffy did not attend, Billboard reported that it was due to threats from Death Row. On December 16, 1995, there is a shooting during the filming of the video for the Dogg Pound and Snoop Dogg in New York. Corrupt and Snoop Dogg called up Suge and Tupac, and Pac said they tried to kill homies from the Death Row family. The thing is that Biggie Smalls was on the radio and said, "I can't believe New York allows the Dogg Pound and Tupac to shoot a clip in our city, in the heart of Times Square." However, Tupac wasn't there.
They weren't shooting in there to say, get out. They were shooting there to kill someone.
At one of the parties, Suge Knight and quite possibly Pac began to beat out information from a person from the Bad Boy party about the whereabouts of Puff, who by some miracle turned out to be at the Death Row party.
He might have got a few punches, and he probably drunk about 20 shots of piss. You know what I mean? Literally.
In March of '96, during another ceremony, Tupac and Suge Knight had a plan to run up on stage when Biggie was there.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my management, Puff Daddy, the whole label, and Aaron stuff.
We arrived for the award ceremony, and it was like an army invasion. Security thinks, "Wow, what's going on?" said Suge Knight. They went through the VIP area. There, they saw Bad Boys and some of the Crips from South Compton. It was the first time Biggie and Tupac met after Pac got shot. It is alleged that Tupac pulled a gun on Biggie Smalls that night. After recording at the studio, security guard Frank Alexander said in an interview that he had asked Tupac, "Did you ever hear what you recorded?" And he was like, "Yes, I wrote it myself." And then the guard suggested that he put on a bulletproof vest and increase security. On June 4th, 1996, the legendary diss on Biggie called "Hit 'Em Up" was released.
Call the cops when you see Tupac. Who shot me but your pumps didn't? Hit 'Em Up is the song, which is a classic hip-hop record, meaning a straight battle record to all the Bad Boys.
But what upset Biggie the most was these lines.
You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife. We bust on Bad Boys, niggas fuck.
This is how Biggie reacted in an interview. If the motherfucker really did Faye, that's foul. How he's just blowing her like that, he says. Never once did he say that Faye did some foul shit to him. If Honey was to give you that pussy, why would you disrespect her like that? If you had beef with me, you're like, boom, I'm a wife. Would you be so harsh on her? Like you got beef with her? That shit doesn't make sense. That's how I don't believe it.
Faith, that was Pac's girl. That was not his girl, but that was, you know, that was him and her and Pac had something together. They was fuck buddies.
A red room, it's like a little private room that's no bigger than a bathroom. And they were in there, and he was pushing, at that time, her head down towards his genitals.
I just want to send a shout out to Faith. Hey girl, Faith and Bad Boy Records.
Even Tupac's ex told the Art of Dialogue channel that Tupac wanted to have sex with Lil' Kim or Faith Evans. But the second option was more likely, despite the fact that she was Biggie's wife. And once, Tupac called up Desiree Smith and said,
"That bitch just left my hotel." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Faith." And I was like, "Oh."
Faith Evans had her own version. In a 2014 interview with Vlad TV, Faith Evans further expounded on the topic and admitted Tupac did ask her for sex when she went to the studio to record his 1996 All Eyes on Me single, Wanda, Why They Call You Bitch. At the time, she claimed she didn't know Tupac was signed to Death Row, the label at the center of Bad Boy entertainment beef. Evans then went to Tupac's hotel to collect the $25,000 she was getting paid for the collaboration. And that's where she said the proposition took place.
In a very surprising and offensive way, for sure. But I mean, by that time, I think it was, it was pretty clear to me that that was all kind of, it seemed to me that was kind of like a plan.
Biggie didn't want to reply to Pac. He got the streets riled up because he got a little song dissing me. Biggie replies, "But how would I look dissing him back? My guy's just like, fuck that, man. That guy's so much on your dick, it don't even make no sense to say anything."
So I knew he knew what happened. So I was like, "Biggie, what happened?" He kept sending me messages like a bitch, like, "I'ma come see you." No, nigga, what happened? And that's why they all, it's Biggie and them, they're not riding. That's why what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. I'm destroying him. I fucked his wife. I'm fucking him in the game. I'm destroying him. He lives by the rules of the game. He lives off a mafia image.
We will bring a new government here that will feed every person in New York.
Tupac dated Kidada Jones in the middle of 1996, according to a 1997 Vanity Fair article, while Tupac was in New York for the MTV Awards in September. The two had been discussing a trip to Hawaii and talking about having a baby together. But when Tupac returned to Los Angeles on September 7th, he and Kidada first went to Las Vegas. Tupac was joining Knight at a Mike Tyson boxing match being held that night at the MGM Grand. Kidada helped Pac pack for the trip. When she asked if he wanted to bring the bulletproof vest he often wore, he answered that it would be too hot to wear it. Tupac watched ringside with Knight as Tyson won his match in less than 2 minutes. In the casino afterward, Tupac fought with Orlando Anderson, a Crips gang member. Anderson was pushed to the ground and kicked before security guards intervened. However, no official complaint was filed, and everyone involved in the brawl departed the hotel. A fight broke out because Orlando stole the Death Row Records chain, for which a reward was promised. Tupac returned to his hotel room, seeing Jones as he changed clothes. She hadn't attended the match. He left her to head to Knight's house. Then, he and Knight got into a BMW to travel to Club 662. Tupac was scheduled to perform at the club to raise money for a gym that wanted to help kids avoid violence. The bodyguards with them weren't armed, as the necessary permits for their weapons hadn't been filed. On the road, a white Cadillac pulled up alongside Knight's BMW. A gunman in that car fired about 13 rounds, hitting Tupac 4 times before the Cadillac sped off. Knight, whose head had been grazed, then drove away in the BMW. However, Knight's vehicle had 2 blown-out tires, so he didn't get far before coming to a stop.
I'm driving, telling him I'm finna get to the hospital, kick back. Pac looked at me and said, you know what? You need the doctor more than me. You the one shot in your head. And we laughed the whole time going to find our way to the hospital.
Tupac fought for his life for 6 whole days, but unfortunately, he died at the age of 25. Napoleon said that Tupac wasn't being himself during the last few days of his life.
You know, he made us walk around, take pictures. He's like, we just don't have enough. We need pictures for memories. We don't have enough pictures with each other. And then he gave away his jewelry. A couple days later, he passed away.
He's always talking about death. Don't forget you could die, nigga. You die, I could die, we could die, I'ma die. Nigga died, nigga. You wanna die? Die. Nigga die. Death, nigga die.
So he felt he was gonna die soon.
Yeah.
I was a tragedy for hip-hop culture, in particular for Biggie. Faith Evans told how B.I.G. called her and burst into tears. I remember Big calling me and crying. I know for a fact he was in Jersey. He called me crying because he was in shock. I think it's fair to say he was probably afraid, given everything that was going on at the time and all the hype that was put on this so-called beef that he didn't really have in his heart against anymore.
But when he died, I was just like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? It kind of took me by. You know, even though we was going through our drama, I would never wish death on nobody, you know what I'm saying? Because ain't no coming back from that. So it kind of turned me down a little bit.
6 months later, Biggie had to go to Los Angeles. Many people told him that it was not the best idea to go. But Biggie's point of view was, East versus West and me against Tupac. Let me talk to the people. Let them understand that I didn't want Tupac dead. He was my friend. Biggie didn't think it was beef and wanted to leave it all behind.
But he said in one of his songs, he knows you sent somebody to shoot him that first time.
Why?
Is that true or false?
Why? No, it's false. Why would I do that?
Okay. Do you think he was just hyping a record or you have no idea?
I don't know what was the problem.
Biggie went to a party and everything was fine. But that was before he got in the car. The car had just gotten about 50 yards away when it stopped at a red light. A dark-colored Impala pulled up alongside the Suburban, and the driver opened fire at the car. Biggie was shot 4 times in a drive-by shooting. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but the doctor's efforts were in vain. He was pronounced dead at just 24 years old. After Biggie's death, Puff Daddy lost over 20 pounds and did not know what happened next. However, he, together with Faith Evans and 112, released the healing song, I'll Be Missing You. This is the first rap single in history that started at #1 on the Billboard chart. And in turn, Suge Knight was sentenced to 9 years in prison on February 28, 1997 for the probation violation. What do you think about the conflict between Biggie and Tupac? Let us know in the comments. I recommend watching the following video about Suge Knight. And if you enjoyed the video, support it with a like. See you all soon.